How'd the Christmas go below in Burr?
Christmas was good in Burr, but the big question is what members of the Borris panel were on the beer over Christmas and putting their All-Ireland race in jeopardy?
They're all on the beer. Will you stop? They know that this game against St. Thomas's only have to show up. So Burris knew there's no need for training over the winter or over Christmas. We'll just enjoy the few pints and settle on Munster, and that'll be that.
There's a great story when he was involved at Offaly before. Tony Murphy used to be county secretary, absolute legend. I think he was secretary for all 4 All-Ireland wins actually.
Right.
But Tony be a real plough master now. And Sir Kieran were playing under 21 semi-final against St. Rynas. Rynas would have been red hot favourites. Sir Kieran parish, small parish, probably only had I think they only had 21 togged out, whatever. And so Tony went over to Kieran Flannery from Banner, who was in there at the time. He says, well, Kieran, how are you fixed for whatever? And he said something. He said, jeez, we're all over the place. No one wants to train. Don't think we have a manager and all this kind of crack. And he lulled them in for about 10 minutes and ended up beating them by 15 points, Clary, and ended up winning the whole thing. But it's just amazing. Like, lads can just... the plough mossing that goes on at club level, even, and you're kind of plough mossing here about Borris already.
Actually, no, to be fair, I was in the pub Christmas Eve in Joe's, and I was there Stevens' night, and I don't think I saw one of them. I barely even saw the brother at the Christmas table.
It's like, how did they deal with Christmas exactly? Like, you obviously enjoy your Christmas dinner and all that kind of stuff, but it is an awkward one. And I know the boys said they gladly sacrifice Christmas, but it is it's a bit of a balls, like, in all fairness.
It is, yeah, and I think less so for Burris because it's the first time there, so you don't mind doing it. Like, they would have gone and probably run the old dinner out of them the day after. Anyway, so it's not that big a deal. Did you get anything nice for Christmas?
Did I get anything nice? I got a cool retro Kerry 1982 jersey. And my father told me to throw it into the fire. He hates Kerry. But and I got a nice retro Limerick jersey.
Is that a complete pointed present there? Offaly beat Kerry in 82 to stop the 5 in a row. So was that like a piss take, yeah?
Kind of, yeah. It was a lovely jersey. Like, I think thinking a lot of the jerseys should be going back to the future too. Some of the old, this old Kerry jersey, I'll put a picture on Twitter later. It's absolute dynamite. It's lovely.
Well, the Kerry jersey last year, which was a bit more retro, the one that Galvin, it was better. And the one this year,
changed it a bit. It's not as nice.
I don't know why they changed it so quickly.
More money.
Yeah, I suppose. So that was all you got for Christmas?
I got a few other bits and pieces as well. I got loads of licorice. I love licorice. Got lots of that. Yeah,
licorice?
Big licorice fan, yeah.
The strawberry one or the black one?
Black one, organic stuff. Organic, as my father said.
Absolutely
gorgeous.
Paddy got me a good present.
Well,
he sorted out my microphone.
Oh, that's actually top class.
That's pretty tough.
That's actually very good.
He's actually sickened with just the long microphone. He's like, he thinks it looks cat. So he said
that's actually very good.
That's great. Yeah. And he actually said he got a matching one for you as well. You're wearing a WWF t-shirt. And look, there's a WWF.
Come on, Paddy. That's class. It says all different things on it as well. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. No, this is for anyone who doesn't know. This is the Rock Special Under Armour line.
Oh, it's ideal.
Yeah, it's class.
People's elbow. Yeah. But the beauty of this one is, it's not only does it not work. Obviously, it doesn't work, but it's bubble bath.
Ah, stop.
Ah, yeah, it's ideal. Has a scrubber as well, so you can get the filth off you.
That's class. I'm actually very happy with that. Thanks very much.
Right. This weekend, Ballyhale against Slaughtneil, Borris-Ileigh against St. Thomas's. We'll start off with Ballyhale. They're 33-1 on to win this game. And a Kilkenny friend of mine, he goes to me, Ballyhale would beat the pick of the 3 other teams left. Do you think it's actually that stark that this Ballyhale team with their inter-county forward line is actually that good that they beat the pick of the other 3 teams?
I'd say in other years maybe not, but this year, just given the 3 teams involved, I'd say they probably would. There's no outstanding candidate outside of Ballyhale. There's it's hard to call the Borris-Ileigh Thomas's game, and Slaughtneil looked like sitting ducks coming up against Ballyhale. So I'd say that's probably a fair point. It's probably a fair point. It's a mad situation, and the thing is, the chances of them being in any way complacent have been reduced greatly by the shorter gap.
Yeah.
Over a 10-week gap, and lads may be losing the run of themselves over Christmas, and Ballyhale boys seem to lose the run of themselves a bit anyway after, when they definitely
have the crack.
They definitely enjoy things anyway. In fairness, fair play to them, and they're dead right. But the short gap means that Henry Shefflin probably has. It's more pointed. He's able to say, lads, we're playing in 4 weeks' time. You know, just be ready for 4 weeks or whatever. So yeah, I'd say they probably would be to pick of the other 3, being honest with you.
Yeah, jeez, that's fairly stark, isn't it? Like, it's
Like, do you think they would? I think they would.
Yeah, well, like, I'm trying to think what way would the other team line up. You'd have
Obviously,
Davy Burke.
obviously Paddy full back.
Yeah, well, you said it. Brendan Maher centre back, Davy Burke midfield. Come on, help me out. Dan McCormick midfield.
You'd have Chrissy McKaig probably either anywhere from 5 to 12, I'd say as well.
Shane McGuigan, Brendan Rodgers, Micheál McGrath would be some of the Slaughtneil lads that you throw in there. Connor Cooney.
It's not
a bad team.
It's not a bad team. You have 10 or 12, but I don't know if you don't have the Ballyhale 6 forwards. No way. That's one thing.
Fintan Burke, if he's fit.
Fintan Burke, he'd be playing all right, but you just don't have the same potency in attack as Ballyhale have. Probably be a very high scoring game.
Yeah.
JD Devaney.
I'd love to see
soft
it,
ground to be tough going now.
Yeah. Ballyhale back-to-back Leinster titles and going for 2 in a row in All-Irelands. Isn't it mad that there's been such transition since they previously won the All-Ireland in 2015, and here they are just churning on and like almost unbackable favourites.
Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah, the amount of new faces. Like Henry kind of said at the time that he came in because he felt they were underachieving and he felt he could bring them to some level of consistency into the silverware, and he's fairly delivered on that, in fairness. And they've always had a couple of guys injured as well along the way, especially in this run. Maybe not so much in last year's run, but the likes of D Mason, the Mullins are getting more and more experience and are just looking more and more seasoned as time goes on.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make a case for Slaughtneil, and I just thought, will they be wishing they're back home in Derry? But like, even the Newry factor, the fact that it's on in Park Esler, does that change anything whatsoever? It's sort of slightly different territory for Ballyhale. They haven't gone up there before. They haven't played a match there. I mean, you'd imagine some of the Slaughtneil lads, even if it's with Derry, at some point would have gone there.
Oh, of course they would have, yeah. Which actually, just looking at the distances between the two, it's like 2.5 hours just over for Ballyhale to head up to Park Esler, and it's an hour and a half for Slaughtneil. They'll probably go up the night before, I'd imagine.
I don't know.
Well, maybe not. I don't know if they could get a train up or whatever as well. But it's different. It's different kind of surroundings. Like when Coola played them a couple of years ago, there didn't seem to be any great kind of trouble to eat.
That was in Armagh, but
sorry. But I don't know. There is a case to be made in the sense that this year it's hurling only for Slaughtneil, and it's been the first time where they've been on an All-Ireland run where they've only had to concentrate on hurling. And Chrissy McKaig was fairly straight on that. He said, like, we've no problem admitting it, our skills wouldn't be up to the level of a lot of the teams down south, as he said himself, and they have to travel. It's realistic to travel 3 hours to get a really good practice match. They have to travel to Dublin usually. We play a lot of them in Abbottstown. So they've gotten a lot of exposure to that. The Ulster final was obviously won earlier than any other province, so they've had plenty of time. They wouldn't have stopped. It's still hard to make a case.
Like, this is a team that lost to Ballycran of Down in the 2018 Ulster Championship. The idea that they could go from that to beat a team like Ballyhale, which is just all of a sudden looking unbelievably dominant, is just very hard to imagine. I know they've won 3 of the last 4 Ulsters. They've won 7 Derrys in a row. But it's just different gravy against the Ballyhale.
We're setting it up for them, in fairness. We're setting it up for
doing our best.
A backlash of sorts, in the sense that they're going to have to really not drag Ballyhale down to their level, but they're going to have to turn into an awful dogfight. And I was thinking about it on the way over here. Ballyhale are going to have to be a bit off. They're just going to have to be a bit off. And after 20 or 25 minutes, they're going to have to realise, geez, we're playing a team here, we weren't expecting this. It's going to have to be something like that. They're going to have to seriously underperform, and Slaughtneil are going to have to play it to a fair level. And maybe I don't know, maybe a big injury for Ballyhale or something like that. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah.
You'd imagine, for them to pull it off. Like, if they were within 5 or 6, they were not going to say it, that they'd be happy. But if they were within 5 or 6, that'd be a massive result.
Yeah, just like, the weather has been good this week. So
it's nice and dry.
Up to the point of recording here, the weather has been unbelievable. It feels like it's April or October or something.
It was 12
like that.
degrees during the day the other day.
You'd imagine for Slaughtneil, they'd want the game to be slowed down as much as possible, make it as dirty an occasion, get stuck into Ballyhale. Then the flip side is Ballyhale are big units. Like, TJ Reid is as physical a player as going. Colin Fennelly is very physical. Adrian Mullen's only a young enough guy, but he's not a small lad. Michael Fennelly's a big old ox. Joey Holden, he's been there and done that for years.
They're all able to look after themselves, see. Ballyhale can play it anyway, so that's the kind of benefit of it. Just on Michael Fennelly as well, he'd be managing Offaly on Saturday in the Kyo Cup semi-final, and then he'd go and play in All-Ireland semi-final on Sunday. It's mad. It's unbelievable.
Well, he only has to do it twice more, assuming that they beat Slaughtneil.
But still unreal.
Yeah.
It's not the stand on the line or being there for the match isn't even the difficult part. It's all the organisation stuff that comes with it. And obviously Johnny Kelly standing beside him as well. I just think it would be unbelievable if the two of them played each other in the club final.
It's absolutely hilarious. Johnny Kelly, Borris manager, being a selector alongside the Ballyhale player. It's just crazy. What about the Leinster final though? I don't like Ballyhale were for the most part in control against St. Mullins, but you couldn't say it was an absolutely classic performance, could you?
No, but they didn't need to be.
Yeah,
what did they win by? Did they win by nearly double figures in the end?
I feel like it was about 8. Just off memory.
It was convincing. Yeah. They always had them at arm's length, really. Do you know what I mean? After kind of tighten up first half. There's times with teams like that they're only doing what they have to do as well. Do you know what I mean?
And that's the luxury for them. So you'd imagine Borris-Ileigh against St. Thomas is going to be an awful lot tighter. Do you think the Gaelic grounds suits either team? The fact that it's a 4 p.m. throw-in and it's going to be dark as the game goes on under lights, unlike the game up in Newry. Is there any factor about the occasion, the lighting, anything like that makes a difference for either team here?
No, I don't think. It's not a modelling shoot or something where the lighting's going to be a big
But if it was, you know the Tipperary, the Borris men would be winning a photo shoot.
Yeah, I don't think so, to be honest with you. I don't think that makes much of a difference. Gaelic grounds is quite wide, expansive. You can play a good kind of style there.
Well, I mean, there it is now. The Páirc Uí Rinn, where the Munster final went on, Borris-Ileigh against Ballygunner. Felt like a tighter ground. The pitch was in bits by the end of it.
Like bog,
they were telling me it wasn't too bad during the game, but it was in bits afterwards. So this is a fairly different pitch. Now, I don't know if you watched, but there was coverage of Limerick against Tipperary in the Munster Hurling League online last week. The pitch didn't seem too bad. I suppose it's like the Gaelic grounds is bound to be a little bit slow, but it wasn't too bad. So the point I'm getting to is that this pitch should move a lot faster. Does that suit Thomas's? Does it suit Borris?
I'd say it would probably suit Thomas's a bit more, to be honest with you.
Davy Burke, you'd imagine, would love it.
Yeah, Davy Burke. A few of the Coonies as well. You imagine Conor Cooney would be looking for quick ball in as well. Éanna Burke as well. It's going to be it's an interesting game. You'll want to turn it into a dogfight. They're going to want to play quite free flowing and open. It'll probably be a kind of merge of the two, I would say. I don't see much more than a score in it, being honest with you.
Yeah, St. Thomas is they won the club title in 2013, the All-Ireland, beating Kilcormac Killahee, who had two lads harshly red carded that day. I would say very harshly. They had 9 of those players that remained for the 2019 Galway final, which happened a couple of months ago. Narrowly beat Cushendall in the semi-final last year before getting hammered
at the end.
Absolutely hammered by Ballyhale in the final. A couple of years ago, lost to Ballyhale of Clare in the All-Ireland semi-final. Now, there's some good experiences obviously with winning the club title. There's bad experiences with some of those losses in there. But the point is that they have an awful lot of experience at this stage, whereas no Borris-Ileigh player does.
They have a serious amount of experience, and there's kind of mitigating circumstances. Last year, before the club final, they had a couple of big events in the parish, around that week, and
illnesses.
It just looked like it all kind of snowballed and made it very, very difficult. And it would have been easy for them not to be able to pick themselves back up. But I remember seeing them play. I don't know, was it Mellows on telly in late April?
Yeah. Conor Cooney got injured that day.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but they were outstanding the same day. They were brilliant the same day. Or do I have that right? I'm not actually sure if I do.
I don't know if they were brilliant.
I'm not sure. No, sorry, I'm actually wrong because Ty Karen got a load of scores. But what the point I was trying to make is it would have been very easy for them not to be able to bounce back. And a lot of things to snowball and not write off 2019, but make it a very, very difficult year. They haven't, and they're back exactly where they wanted to be. Within the next 2 weeks, they could totally make amends for the events of Patrick's Day and everything around it. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
You talk about trying to bounce back the next month after being an All-Ireland final. In 2018, we had gone to a replay with Na Piarsaigh. We won that. 2 weeks later, we were out against, was it St. Bridget's or Crave Kieran? We had to play them both basically in the space of a couple of weeks. But 14 days after winning the All-Ireland, 8 of those days on the beer. And just the idea of building yourself up to go back out again. Very hard to get yourself going again. So the fact that they have themselves going again is a great sign for them. And they've had to do it in different conditions too. They had an 8 points apiece draw with Turdockmore during the championship.
That's right, yeah.
And I was looking at both of these teams have averaged 115 in their last number of games. So since Borris-Ileigh met Drum and Inch in the quarter-final. They've averaged 115 in their 5 games since. In the knockout stages of Galway, St Thomas's, their last 3 games, 115. Actually, in that period, 134 of their 443 has come from the Burks.
Jenny Mac,
Yeah.
There's
There's obviously the Coonies you have.
Yeah.
And like, of those Burks that did the scoring, you're talking Aina Burke, Dara Burke on the frees, Davy Burke, of course. Actually, it was interesting talking Donald Cooney. He was talking about the All-Ireland collapse, and he said, and the stuff you mentioned, he said before the match we had Kenneth Burke getting injured in the semi-final, then Aina and Finton were injured on the day. That doesn't help. Then you're playing a fantastic team like Ballyhale. You have to be at full capacity to beat them. So you know this thing we're talking about, experience, that St Thomas's are so used to being here a number of times in the last few years. Do you think for Borris-Ileigh it counts against them that they haven't? Like, because sometimes I think, and lots of clubs feel like this, but Borris-Ileigh's history is so intertwined with hurling's success, in the sense of the club team that won the All-Ireland in '87, in terms of the amount of players from Borris-Ileigh that have captained Tipperary to All-Ireland wins, that this kind of feeling of, like, that hurling is this parish, etc., and your whole identity is intertwined in that. There's almost a feeling of, well, sure, like, Borris should kind of be here. So does that kind of eliminate this whole thing of you're coming into a stage that you're not used to being in and wondering, are we kind of ready for this stage? Are we built for this stage?
I'd say they definitely feel like they belong after winning Munster and after winning the county title, because a good few of them would have talked about how, like, the previous team, the '87 team, they didn't want to be mentioned anymore. They wanted a new team to come along, and they have come along. And like, we kind of talked about that in the build up to the Munster final. While I didn't tip Borris-Ileigh, I did think it would be tight. And the experience of thinking you should be there and everyone around you maybe not being used to being there, but they were there before. So I don't see that being a big thing. I just think Thomas's might just have a bit more kind of nous on the day. I just think, especially with Finton Burke back, I think he's massive. I've made comparisons with him and lofty comparisons, albeit, with him and Pádraig Matter before. I think he's the sort of lad that can totally dominate a game.
Because they're left-handed units.
Left-handed units who, like, if you don't keep the ball away from them when they're playing well, they can just totally dominate games.
And he was used at full forward in the county final when he came on.
And he came on and got 2 points, 2 huge points. Someone was kind of saying to me, floating the idea, like, maybe would he go centre forward and try and really occupy Brendan Maher, which would be interesting to see.
And do Borris try and lock down Davy Burke with someone who isn't necessarily going to be one of Borris's main hurlers per se, in a positive sense? Someone who's, like Dan McCormick Borris would hope to get him on the ball. But would they, rather than kind of waste him on a man marking job, would they try and get a worker bee on him instead?
Yeah.
Well, what would you do?
I've watched Davy in a good few club games, and he probably hasn't been as influential as he has been with Galway. Maybe that's because you're enjoying that bit more freedom with the county. Year 2 midfielders, Dan obviously sits back a lot of the time and has played sweeper and sat back a good bit. Year 2 midfielders are definitely capable of. There's one of them in particular,
Tommy Ryan Foot is the more of a worker bee, and then Dan McCormick, and then there's Kieran Maher, who goes in around the middle of the field, the guy who scored the goal in the Munster final. So there's a lot of lads.
There's a couple of boys, like if you hold him to a point and he's only hit 5 or 6 balls in a game, Davy Burke, then you've fairly negated his influence on the game.
I'd say if St Thomas's could go back to that Ballyhale game in 2017, they'd like to have that one back again, because Tony Kelly was midfield and he ran the show because they started the wrong men on him. They had Bernard Burke on him at first, which isn't a natural matchup in terms of keeping with his speed.
That was the matchup at all.
Then they had James Regan on him, and they fell quite a ways behind. And in the last 20 minutes, Davy Burke went on Tony Kelly and absolutely ran the show for the last of the game.
They were a mile behind, and if it had gone on another 3 or 4 minutes, they would have gotten a result.
And like, I think this is where the game would be won and lost on those matchups. So like Brendan Maher going on Pádraig Maher and pressing up on him when he roamed out the field, that was a huge part of the win. Apologies. That was a huge part of the winning of the game.
Sometimes I think you can think about these things a bit too much. If I were Thomas's, I would definitely look at the possibility of Davy Burke picking up Dan McCormick and having more of an influence on the game than Dan McCormick. If he does, Thomas's will more than likely win the game. But now, if that means he has to play in an advanced position, as in more into the half-forward line, and can pick up 3 or 4 points, as he did in the All-Ireland final. Davy Burke played Davy Burke played defensively all year up until the 2017 All-Ireland final, and Waterford probably expected him to be that link man, and then he just ended up not being the link man in the final.
Four from play, was it?
Yeah, and he was between midfield and half forward nearly the whole game. If he gets a chance to score, he will. You probably can't say the same about Dan McCormack, not with the same regularity.
No, he doesn't score that much.
So if Davy Burke, if they say, do you know what, we'll try and take out one of their weapons, we'll hammer the hammer, we'll try and take out one of their weapons by sending Davy a bit more forward, and he does that, and it's 3 or 4 points, Thomas's won't be beaten.
Do you think there's anything to be read into, this is the first time since the season has really kind of kicked into gear with the county championship, it's the first time that Borris-Ileigh have had a breather, because it was kind of game on game on game on game. Now there was a 2-week break up until the Munster final, but the fact that they've had a bit more time to sit and think about this kind of thing, that there's anything in that, will any nerves set in, overthinking it, that kind of thing, rather than before you're just one game to the next, you've no time to think about it.
I'd say they'd be happy that it wasn't the normal long break. 4 weeks isn't too bad. As you said, it doesn't seem like too many of them were out too much over Christmas, so they didn't have people patting them on the back and things like that. They would have had that, and it's kind of hard to get used to that, because people are telling you you're great, and it's without the best in the world, it's great and all that, but it can kind of just seep into your psyche a small bit. Sure, we're great lads, we're after getting this far. And then maybe just the edge that you had going into other games maybe isn't there. If Borris-Ileigh don't have that edge, they'll struggle, but they won't win the game unless they have that edge. They have to be the ones that bring that edge.
Who do you think will win?
I don't have that much faith in Thomas's.
Even again, we talk about spines, but even like Davy Burke, Conor Cooney in there. I mean, there's a lot of scoring threat in that team.
Yeah, I still don't have that much faith in them, but I think they'll win.
Yeah?
I think they'll, and funnily enough, I'm going to go against all common logic and say that they're going to win by a score, because Borris-Ileigh, every win Borris-Ileigh have had has been a one-score game since their drum match. Yeah. So, but I think Thomas's will win, just because wanting to get back to where they were. And as you said, there is a lot of class. There's probably more class throughout the field than Borris-Ileigh if you take it as a 15. So as I said, I don't have that much faith in them, but I still think they'll just pull through.
It'll be tight, alright. I agree with you. I think there'll be a score in it. I'm not going to back against the home parish, am I?
That's fair enough, no problem.
There's plenty of other games in the intermediate and junior, and just run through the fixtures before touching on them a bit more. Turin of Mayo against Father O'Neill's of Cork in the intermediate All-Ireland semi-final. Tullerone against Naevena of Antrim in the other semi, and then the junior All-Ireland semis, Connie Shamrocks of Kilkenny against Owen Rua of Derry, and Michael Brannocks of Galway against Russell Rovers of Cork. So we got an email in from Pa Morrissey. He said, Happy New Year to yourself and Mick. Love the show, by the way. Just an interesting story about the weekend's Premier and Junior hurling semis, so Junior and Inter. 2 East Cork teams of Father O'Neill's and Russell Rovers have made it out of Munster. O'Neill's playing the intermediate on Saturday against Turin, and 4 mile neighbours, 4 miles away I presume, Russell Rovers play Brannocks of Galway in the Junior semi-final. So that's kind of exciting little situation for those 2 East Cork teams.
That was some crack around Christmas time and around the time they won the Munster titles, places in close proximity. Usually,
they surely brought the cups together somewhere.
You'd imagine so, because usually, without being smart, to be a fair level of bitterness from your neighbours.
Maybe that's an Offaly thing. Maybe that's why you're so useless.
I think that happens everywhere, to be honest with you. Like, you look at it in Galway, like they would have always said, the greatest barrier to success was the massive rivalry among the clubs.
Was that an excuse? Was that an easy excuse?
Possibly. It said that you could say that in most counties. Yeah. Couldn't you?
Yeah, sure. There's bound to be players that hate opposition clubs and even players.
Oh, there would be, of course, yeah.
Everywhere.
I was actually just doing a piece on the club month, and I was referring back to Jim McGuinness's book, where he said in 2013, when they played with Donegal and then were released to play club duty, they were coming back into the play with the county again, and they were after basically hammering each other in club games, and there was lads bursting each other, and lads, that type of thing, and it just wasn't a healthy environment at all. And I'd imagine it's great for a parish and an area like that, just for everyone to be happy and no bitterness. But saying that,
someone's going to say, she only won a junior.
Possibly. Someone said to me once, he said to me, you're very balanced. You've got a chip on both shoulders.
Very nice. So Turin of Mayo, they beat Kinvara, Conor Whelan, Shane Kavanagh, Colin Canlon, that Kinvara team. Which was huge for a Mayo team, and I think that's their second in 3 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, second in 3 years, yeah.
So Father Neil's of Cork, then they beat Ballysaggart, which would be the Bennett's, Shane Kieran and Stephen Bennett. That was 215 to 17 points in the Munster Intermediate final. So, I mean, it's obviously neither of us would have seen the teams that much. Father O'Neill's have Declan Dalton, who's on the Cork senior team.
And it's flying by all accounts.
Yeah. So it would obviously be very difficult to talk too much.
Father O'Neill's are going to be expected to play Tullaroan in the final. That's what most people will be expecting.
Yeah, Tullaroan are heavy favourites against Naveana, who of course won the Ulster final on a penalty shootout 1-0.
That's right.
Like both teams took 5 penalties. You might remember us talking about this during December. I presume it was in early December. And yeah, Sambo McNaughton over that team. So could we bill it as Sambo McNaughton versus Tommy Walsh?
That's not bad actually. Yeah,
the
Sambo
battle that
Tommy,
we always wanted it. two Lake Regale type figures.
Yeah,
I presume Sambo had a Lake Regale, did he? If he didn't,
I don't think so. It's a good one.
It needs to happen.
He definitely won't be able to stay. You'll have no problem getting to talk.
He'll talk away the finals. And then Connie Shamrocks of Kilkenny against Owen Rue of Derry and Micheál Brannocks of Galway against Russell Rovers of Cork.
Again, the Kilkenny contingent would be expected to get through there. They've won. I remember referencing it in December. Either 6 of 11 and 8 of the last 13, I think, between junior and intermediate. All Irelands they've won, so they'll definitely be expected to get through.
It makes sense when you don't have 30 teams in your top or in your county championship like Tipperary and other places. Obviously, you're going to be more competitive if you do sort of a 12 and 12 sort of a scenario. So I
would have thought Micheál Brannocks was more of a football area, to be honest. But you know, they play senior football in Galway. But you'd imagine it would be Connacht against Russell Rovers. But the other two will have something to say.
Right, that's it, I suppose, is it?
Yeah, that's it.
All said. So don't forget to like the video, share it if you want, and definitely some comments underneath, and we'll get back to you on those. And don't forget to follow the channel on YouTube.